Holy you guys. I can't believe we didn't. I didn't think we were like I came into today not confident at all, dude.
Twitch streamer GinoMachino has done the impossible. He cheated death. Well, in Elden Ring, that is. Most of us struggle to make it through From Software's brutal, difficult open world at all, but GinoMachino did it without dying a single time. And not only did he never die, he also killed every single boss in the lands between. That's 165 in total without taking a single hit. Months of planning and dozens of attempts led to the perfect run last month, allowing the streamer to take a sigh of relief.
There's a lot of relief, obviously. I was really focused towards the back half of the run, so like for like 4 to 5 hours I was kind of not really talking. I was just focused on the game, making sure I wasn't gonna like forget some little enemy or something like that. So it was a lot of relief. I had also been working on the run for like quite some time before that, so it was really nice to get that run kind of off my shoulders.
This is how GinoMachino became the most fearsome foe in Elden Ring's The Lands Between.
Holy
GinoMachino is no stranger to crazy challenge runs in From Software games. He's done no-hit runs in some of the Dark Souls games, and just days before completing the Elden Ring no-hit run, he became the first person to beat Elden Ring using only bare fists.
I did just recently do that bare fist run where I was fighting the bosses for like 5+ hours at a time, and on that, Godskin Duo was really tough. I think a lot of people have a hard time with that boss, but fighting them for 5.5 hours is pretty bad.
But when it comes to his latest accomplishment, there's no comparison. GinoMachino said the Elden Ring all bosses no-hit run is probably the most challenging run he's ever completed, leading to a shocked response upon finally finishing it.
Oh my god.
You'd probably be in disbelief too if you'd poured as much time into Elden Ring as GinoMachino has.
I think in Steam I probably have like, I think it's like 1,200 hours or so.
A months-long build-up led to the winning run, from the planning phases to an estimated 80 to 100 attempts at the no-hit run. The challenge was a true no-hit run, meaning if GinoMachino had gotten hit a single time, he would have had to start the game over from scratch. Whether he took a hit 1 hour in or 5 hours makes no difference. The run would have instantly been thrown in the garbage with the rest of the failed attempts. GinoMachino says creating the route is one of the most challenging parts of tackling a task like this. You want to fight the toughest bosses first in a challenge run because you have the highest odds of getting hit in the harder fights. Why waste your time plowing through the easier bosses just to lose the run later on? Instead, you leave the easier stuff for later in the run to take on once you've already cleared the toughest fights, like Malenia, the Godskin Duo, and Moog.
The routing process, it took, I think, at least 2 months to kind of put everything together, from determining, you know, what build to use and what strategies for bosses. And there's like a lot of really unique strategies that we used. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we found on that run that's really cool. So at least 2 months, but even up until the moment I got the run, I was changing stuff, improving some of the strategies and routing through the areas. So like I said, it was 2 months, but it was actually up until like right until I got the run where I was changing things about the route.
He also had to develop the setup to use during the no-hit run attempts. Eventually, GinoMachino settled on a setup making use of 3 different weapons. The Serpent Hunter weapon for most of Elden Ring's bosses, the Falling Star Beast Jaw to stun many bosses in the game, and the Sacred Relic Sword to knock down NPC bosses and clear out large areas. Even with all of this planning, GinoMachino says there have been definitely some times where he lost a run 5+ hours deep to something unplanned.
There's a few times where, you know, I take an extra step into a boss arena and then the boss does something that it's not supposed to. And yeah, I've gotten hit like just like, you know, 1 step too far forward and it ends the run like 6 hours in. So there's definitely been a few of those.
So when GinoMachino logged into Elden Ring on October 25th, he could have been diving into just another forgotten failed attempt. But that's the thing about these challenge runs and Souls games in general. You never know when your next run could be the run. For GinoMachino, when that run passed the 6-hour mark, that's when he realized it was actually happening. The boss in question was the ulcerated tree spirit in Limgrave. GinoMachino had lost to this very foe before 6 hours into the run. In that failed attempt, he says he was standing just a few pixels too far after entering the boss arena, causing the ulcerated tree spirit to aggro him unexpectedly. But this time he learned from his mistake and everything went just right.
The furthest I'd been before that was approximately, I think, about 6 hours in. And I knew that there's a certain part of the run where things started to get a bit easier, and it just started to be more of like cleaning up the boss fights, because we kind of like left the earlier, easier stuff for later in the run. And so once I got past the furthest I had been before, and I was like, okay, this time we have a good chance at getting it, and I was pretty confident in all the strategies we developed and stuff. Yeah, at about 6 hours is when I realized like this could actually be it.
But after defeating the ulcerated tree spirit, GinoMachino wasn't out of the woods. There were two big close calls the rest of the way. The first against Electo, where the boss hid behind a rock to block an attack, and GinoMachino had to pull off a matrix move to avoid an incoming projectile.
Oh my god.
The second was against the Roundtable Knight Vike, where GinoMachino's wave of gold ash of war attack missed, forcing him to reset the fight.
That's really bad.
But his initial gut feeling after defeating the ulcerated tree spirit was right, as GinoMachino killed the final boss, the Soldier of Godric, after a marathon 9.5-hour streaming session.
The gods demand repentance! Cough up your coin! All of it!
Funnily enough, GinoMachino said that the From Software formula didn't click with him for a long time.
I started doing no-hit runs in Dark Souls 3 5 years ago, and it's actually interesting. I didn't really like the game when I first played it. Like, I actually quit halfway through. But what drew me back was when I saw like a no-hit run on YouTube, and I was like, wow, this is crazy compared to me fighting the bosses the first time, dying, hundreds of times just like everybody else. And I saw that and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And so I started to enjoy the games once I actually started challenge running them a bit more, and I guess I just never stopped since then. It's been a long time.
And he's showing no signs of stopping anytime soon. In the wake of his no-hit run and Bare Fists run, GinoMachino is already working on a run of Elden Ring without stopping at any sites of grace. Once that's done, he's got an ultimate goal in mind too.
I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but I think my end goal would be to do all bosses no hit without leveling or upgrading any weapons. And I did runs like that in Dark Souls 3 and Dark Souls 2. And it's just, Elden Ring's got so many bosses. It's going to be, that's going to be a hard run, but I think that's kind of like my end goal. Like if I can do that, then I'll be pretty satisfied, I think.